I know discussioning isn't really a word, but I think it's a good one for us for thinking about actually creating a discussion. We're discussioning, right? And I have suggested, I really want you to think about making your discussions online a conversation between you and the students, a conversation between the students talking to each other. So how can we go about doing that? Well, there's a few techniques that we should think about. The first that I really strongly recommend is using groups. Think of it this way. If you've got 16 students in an online class, it's kind of like trying to have one discussion with 16 people is kind of like everyone standing on a chair and shouting with a megaphone. Hey, listen to me. Hey, listen to me. And while you can hear what else is going on, it's distracting and it's almost overwhelming. And so if you can subgroup your 16 students into 4 groups of 4, suddenly you've got an actual group that you can have a conversation with. You can talk with 4 people. It's really hard to talk with 16 people. Okay. One thing that I've done with that then is to have them start with their small group and discuss something, and then come to some consensus as a small group to say, here's what we as a group think about this issue or this topic, and then have a second forum that they can post it back for the whole class then to read and respond to. Okay, just a thoughtful technique. Most learning management systems, LMSs that you would use, will allow you to do multiple discussions and use groups that way. Something else that I'd encourage you to think about is a technique that I call blindfolding. Just like blindfolds prevent you from seeing what's going on, the same idea. Most LMSs, most learning management systems, will let you blind your students in the sense that they have to respond to your prompt before they can see what their classmates have responded. Now, you maybe don't want to do this every time, and it depends on the situation in your class, but one thing I really like about that is it pushes students, it forces them to have to stand on their own 2 feet and say, here's what I think about this topic or about this issue. And so maybe you'll need to be okay with students saying, I'm not sure what I think about this right now, and just be very tentative about it. But I would encourage it because I think you're probably going to get more thoughtful responses instead of the, I agree with so-and-so. Because that's a real problem in an online course. And I even call this the I agree fence. It can be a real barrier to true conversations in online classes. When one person posts and then everybody else says, yeah, what he said, what she said, I agree. And so to get away from the I agree fence, a technique that I have adapted, I first came across Phi3, or FY, we say Phi3, from Sandra Page, who is a member of the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. ASCD is a big name teacher educator group. And so I adapted a technique that I heard from her. It's Phi3 because the 3 words we're going to talk about end in FY. Okay? So, in response to someone else's post, you've got a discussion forum, a student has posted something. In response, what do? You don't just agree. Well, there's a couple possibilities. The first possibility, students might amplify. And amplify, of course, would mean, just like an amplifier makes the sound louder, amplify would mean give further evidence, give another example, elaborate in some way and say, I agree with this, and here's another example to support that. Okay? So it's not just the I agree, but it takes it a step further. Sometimes students won't agree, and that's okay. You can ask them to clarify then. Clarify would mean that you're going to ask a question to ensure you understand. You said this. Did you mean it like this? Or it sounds like you're saying this. I just want to clarify. Okay? And a third option, amplify, clarify, or diversify. Sometimes you downright disagree with what somebody else said, and so you don't need to be agreeable. You need to be nice. You might have to remind students of that. It's okay to respectfully disagree and offer an alternative perspective. Diversify the conversation.